What's up, boys? Coming here with the best bets on UFC 307, Pereira versus Rountree. Some good spots, some good fights. Let's get into it. Starting off with my most confident money lines and parlays. Jose Aldo plus 3.5. I honestly don't see how he doesn't win at least one round. I think that this fight's going to go to the decision. But I think he's going to win the fight outright. But I feel like that's the safest bet probably on this card is Aldo plus 3.5 and then coming up with Aldo money line. I feel like Aldo money line is pretty safe. I don't know how he is the underdog. Regardless of if he wins this fight or not, I feel like plus 120 is good odds on Jose Aldo. Next up, Esparza versus Pennington going to the decision. I'd say that this fight is pretty much a decision berg written all over it. The odds aren't the best, minus 575. Not the best, but I'd say that this fight is most likely going to decision. I don't really see either of them going for the finish. They're both not really finishers, don't really have much finishes in their career. So that is a pretty confident parlay piece. Rodriguez versus Lucindo. And I think that the fight's going to go to decision. I think that both of them are pretty safe. I feel like Lucindo is going to try to get the takedowns on Rodriguez, which is her biggest hole in her game. Rodriguez is going to want to stay on the feet. She's a crisp striker. She definitely can possibly get a knockout, but she's not really a power puncher. I think she needs to connect with a bunch of different shots, and I don't think she'll find an insane amount of success where she can find the knockout. I think Lucindo will slow down the fight with takedowns. It'll be back and forth, close fight, but I think it's going to go to decision. Minus 280 I think is pretty good. It's a good parlay piece. Next is Pereira versus Rountree going under 2.5. I think that this one is a pretty good lock just because both of them are trying to finish. I think that this fight is going to end within 2 rounds, and either way, even if you're high on Pereira, you think Rountree is going to win. I think this covers both sides. Both of them, I think this fight is either going to end in a knockout on either side. I think Pereira is going to knock him out, but just in case, you can have that Rountree KO also get covered with this bet. So I think it's a good parlay piece. And next up is Pereira moneyline. Honestly, the odds aren't the best on Pereira minus 455, but I say that Pereira, he hasn't faced somebody this low. I think Rountree isn't deserving. He obviously has that knockout ability, but he's got explosion, he's got speed, but he's not as technical. He isn't. I don't think he's ready for it. I feel like he'll be more of a puncher's chance on his side. But I think that Pereira is gonna knock him out in the first or second round. Next is Rodriguez plus 3.5. I honestly think this fight is a really close fight. Her as the underdog and coming in at minus 165 for the plus 3.5 is pretty crazy just because Rodriguez, she's probably one of the best strikers in the division. She's really technical, can land her shots. Her takedown defense isn't the best, but I think that she can definitely win around just because Lucindo isn't like crazy good at wrestling, isn't crazy good at holding people down. She's kind of like has takedowns and has decent striking. She's kind of more of an all-arounder rather than the people that Rodriguez has lost to, like Jandiroba, where she is a grappling tactician and she is wanting to get the fight to the ground. Lucindo gets the fight to the ground, but is not mainly going for that. Next is Harrison minus 3.5. This one is a bit riskier just because she isn't crazy proven, but I feel like her strength, her size, her power is really good. Her ground and pound and submission threat is there. I think that she can finish this fight or just win by decision 30-27. So that's why I have this as a parlay piece. Coming in with the other money lines or parlay pieces, I'd say Pennington over 45.5 significant strikes is a pretty good bet. You can just money line this. This is Tisha Pennington. I think that Esparza will be looking to get Tisha Pennington on the ground, and she's gonna keep going for takedowns. But if she doesn't get them, I feel like Tisha Pennington will be able to just piece her up on the outside and stuff takedowns. Even though I think Esparza wins the fight, I think that Pennington will still be able to rack up a bunch of punches, even with the takedowns that Esparza gets. So I feel like this is a pretty good bet. Maybe you don't put too much on it just because Esparza can hold you down, but I'd say it's a pretty good bet. to money line. Next up is Pennington Pena versus Pena decision. I think that this is pretty good just because both of them aren't really finishers. I think Pena is she is somewhat of a finisher, but I'd say that this is an elevation. She could gas. She kind of has that dog mentality where it's hard to finish her. She's not really. She can get dropped a bunch. She can get taken down, but I think finishing her is pretty hard. Pennington isn't some crazy power puncher. She isn't really going for the knockout, but she definitely has good boxing and she has good output. So I think that this fight will just be a back and forth. Pennington finding the better shots, and this fight going to the decision. So I think that's a good parlay piece. Next up is Buckley moneyline. I'd say Buckley moneyline is pretty decent just because his path to victory is pretty easy of just taking down Thompson. Not that taking down Thompson is easy, but I'd say that going for the takedowns is the way to beat Thompson. It's already kind of been shown, like Woodley, Bilal Muhammad. Obviously, Buckley isn't at the level of those guys, but I'd say that the path is definitely there. I think that he's been looking really good at 170, so I think Buckley moneyline is pretty decent to parlay. Delete under 2.5 takedowns, I feel like is pretty good. He's going against Kevin Holland. I feel like Delete, he's a power puncher, doesn't have too much output. He has a good grappling game, but he isn't really going for takedowns. You look at a lot of his fights, he's not going for takedowns. He's not even attempting them really. And I think that Holland, his grappling isn't the best, but like defensively grappling. But I'd say that he will be able to keep this fight on the feet. Keep him at range. He's got a good reach advantage. The fact that he doesn't go for many takedowns and the line is at under 2.5, I feel like he's not going to be able to get 3 takedowns on Holland. If he does get a takedown or maybe 2, but 3 is a bit too much. I think that is a good odds for that. Next up is Kevin Holland money line. I think that Kevin Holland, it's teetering towards like good odds, but it's a little bit risky just because Kevin Holland, I feel like he isn't always fully in it to win it. He kind of just likes taking fights, likes taking the challenges, but he really hasn't lost to anybody who isn't at his level or who he's better than. So I feel like Delitse isn't as skilled as Holland. Holland has the power, even though I don't think that Delitse is easy to finish. I think that Holland has the submission threat, has the knockout threat. He has better combos, better technique. I think that he's just a better overall fighter. So I think that he's decent odds just because he should be better than him everywhere. And next up is Buckley versus Thompson going to decision. I feel like minus 185. I feel like even if Thompson ends up winning this fight, which I think Buckley wins, I think that Thompson won't be able to finish Buckley because of the takedowns. Buckley will, if he starts struggling on the feet, I think his game plan will definitely be to get the takedowns. Even if I think that his takedowns is going to be part of his game plan regardless, but I think that if it's not going well on the feet, he's going to go for a takedown and slow down the fight. Thompson isn't like a one punch. He can definitely find that one punch shot or a kick that like knocks somebody's lights out. He is really technical. He can find the shot for sure, but he isn't really been knocking people out recently. So, and he's getting older, so I feel like this fight going decision is a good parlay piece or money line. Esparza plus 3.5. This is definitely on the riskier side, but I see her winning. I think that minus 225, it should be a little bit better just because she's like a plus 150. Minus 225 kind of just shows how easy it is for her to get around. If she gets a takedown, she'll probably be able to keep her on the ground for half the round. That is easier for her to win that round. So I feel like she is a really good wrestler. She's on her way out. I think this might be her last fight, so it makes it a little bit risky, but I'd say that Esparza plus 3.5 is decent to parlay. Going into my bets on moneyline or parlays, I think that Aldo moneyline is a really good bet. It's probably like my favorite bet just because him at plus money is just great. He's obviously getting older, but he hasn't faced anybody this low. So Aldo plus 120, great odds. It's a good bet. Aldo plus 3.5, parlayed with Rodriguez plus 3.5, coming at plus 145. I feel like it's a pretty good bet because Rodriguez is in a closer fight. Aldo should win his fight or at bare minimum take one round. You get plus money. I feel like it's a pretty good bet. Next up is Esparza Pennington decision, Rodriguez Lucindo decision, and Pereira Rountree under 2.5. It is getting a little bit riskier with putting three parlay pieces in to get plus money, but I feel like they're pretty confident parlay pieces. Esparza, Pennington, like I discussed, decision. It's like minus 575. It's pretty confident to hit. I'd say that both of them aren't really finishers. Rodriguez, Lucindo. Lucindo isn't really a finisher. Rodriguez can be, but both of them are in a close matchup. One's going for getting takedowns. One's trying to keep this fight on the feet. I think it'll be close. I think that this fight will go to decision. And then next, Rountree and Pereira under 2.5. I feel like this covers both sides just in case Rountree wins or Pereira just knocks him out right quick. I'd say that Pereira is definitely favored to knock him out in the first or second round. Under 2.5, I feel like it's coming in at pretty good odds. If you parlay all three of them, get plus 133. I feel like it's a pretty good bet. Pereira parlayed with Harrison minus 3.5. It is riskier because Harrison isn't as proven, but she's 17-1, only one fight in the UFC. But I feel like she is just too strong, too explosive. Her takedowns are there, her grappling is there. She has good ground and pound, has the finishing ability. I think that even if she doesn't finish Vieira, I think that she will win 30-27. And Pereira, I'm pretty confident in him. So I think that's a minus 167 is pretty good odds. I'd say it's a pretty good parlay. Coming in with the other parlays or money lines, Pennington over 45.5 significant strikes. I feel like that's a pretty good bet, just like I discussed before. I think that if she's able to stuff the takedown, she'll 100% get this. I think that even with her getting taken down, she'll be able to get this. I feel like it's just pretty confident to hit. Next is Holland, money line at minus 167. I think that this is pretty good just because he should be able to beat him. He's better than him everywhere. He's longer. He's bigger. Actually, he's not bigger. He's longer. He's got more reach. He's got better striking. I think that just all the tools he'll be able to use. Delete doesn't really go for takedowns, so I think it's pretty good. And next up is Delete under 2.5 takedowns. I think he just doesn't go for takedowns. Looking at his fights, he doesn't go for takedowns. He's good at grappling, but he isn't really going for them. And if he does, it's not many, and it's harder for him to get them. Next up, and it's harder for him to get them, and that's coming in at minus 150. I think is pretty good. Next up is Buckley Thompson decision parlayed with Pennington Pena decision. I think that this is a decent bet just because both of them, both the fights, it is an elevation. I think both of them are going to be taking the safer route. I think it's going to be dragged out. It's the wrestling on Pena's side and Buckley's side will slow down the fight. Pennington and Thompson want to keep the fight standing, but I'd say that they're not like insanely more technical than them on the feet, so it will be a closer fight, and I think that this fight will just be slugged out and go into decision. So I think it plus 116 is pretty good. And next and final one is Buckley moneyline parlayed with Esparza plus 3.5, coming at plus 107. I think that this is pretty good. It is on the riskier side, but I'd say that Esparza will be able to get around with her wrestling. And this fight is going to decision, so I think that she'll be able to secure 1 round out of 3. And then Buckley, I feel like his game plan is pretty easy of just getting the takedowns and secure the rounds and beating Thompson in a decision. So give me Buckley and Esparza plus 3.5 coming at plus 107, and I think it's pretty good. And that's going to be my best bets on UFC 307 Pereira versus Rountree. Thanks for watching.